Figure out, but she probably forgot something in the car. Well, I'll go ahead and start. It's Thursday, November 20th, 9 a.m. We'll call this meeting of the Board of Harbor Commissioners for the town of LaPointe to order. With us this morning, we have Jay Wiltz. Here. Evan Erickson. Here. Myself, Glenn Carlson. Here. And I believe we have Mary Ross entering. Staff present, Kate Kisner, and here's Mary. First up on the agenda, public comment.
I will make public comment thanking Methel for using town resources and equipment to do some dock work this week.
Okay.
And also present Susan Widmar. First up on the agenda, minutes of November 10th meeting.
Make a motion to approve the minutes from the October 10th meeting. November, thank you.
I'll second. If there's no discussion, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next up, Chief Administrative Officer report.
We have the current balance of the Harbor Commission bank accounts as of Tuesday, November 18th. The utility checking account was at $350,996.08. Since our meeting last week, we have made two different transfers. One was for the Cooper Engineering change order that we approved last week, which is since cleared, and that information's been sent to Cal to submit for reimbursement. And then the additional amount was just to keep the checking account at a comfortable number. The November revenue as of Tuesday was just over 123,000, which was about just under 65% of the budgeted income for the month.
The 18.5 from the savings to the checking, that was the Cooper?
Yes,
Okay. I'd come that money came out of revenue bond.
that's where we're keeping the $800,000 for the
Got it.
just to be consistent or
Yeah,
transfer that
yep,
amount.
makes all the sense in the world.
Then I did include the October reports, including Methel's report for the Harbor Commission. Just wanted to point out the October numbers. It doesn't, she has it here, the comparison for May 1st through October 31st, but the October 2020, just October 2025 compared to October 2024 is up in every category. She didn't show that comparison on here.
You said it's up in every category?
Yeah, it's still October only, no?
Yeah, it's still it's
Just the month of October, yes.
up below the percent. Budget.
1.5%.
Oh, I didn't hear that part.
Well, it said it right there.
All right then.
But her 2024 comparison numbers, that is for that May 1st through October 31st timeframe. Not just for the month of October. If nobody had any immediate questions about the reports, I'm also happy to answer any questions about those here as well.
For our budget comparison, water and sewer was 1,400 over projected budget. Do we know why?
I believe, and Cal brought this up at a budget committee meeting, I believe has to do with the coverage. With the water usage with Truck and Trail, which is being addressed. Katie Abbott is addressing that directly with Truck and Trail.
Okay.
not sure if something was left on, but there is a drastic usage difference the day that Truck and Trail was done for the season.
Couldn't you tell there was an uptick when they opened for the season also?
I don't see those
Oh,
numbers.
okay.
I feel like it didn't happen until it wasn't at the very beginning of the season.
Okay.
But Cal did bring it up and he brought in the usage report, which has now been passed along to Katie that she's addressing with Truck and Trail.
Got it.
And the other one is that it looks like we're 55,000 over budget on payroll
For the month.
for the month of October.
Jeez.
That's a code.
Is that a trend that's gonna continue for the rest of the year? Or is this just kind of how we broke down the month by month category
Where do you see that?
on the backside of?
Their next pay period in.
I think that I wanna say that there was October 31st payroll,
Which was a Friday.
which would have
Halloween
been
was
the third one of the month.
That's probably what that's about.
Yeah,
Okay.
Oh, an extra pay period in the month.
yeah. I'm happy to discuss that with Robin too when she's back.
That's probably what it is.
Okay, and like I said, I'm happy to. Michael did send me the Food Fairy Day flyer that will be going out in, the PO boxes of Islanders on next week. Which should be roughly about 350. So, I didn't know if it's sent out. And then last on my list is, Michael Collins and myself will meet on Monday, just to briefly discuss, he has been working on, just trying to kind of write out the structure for the December 8th meeting. He is hoping to send that out to everyone, here shortly. Said he wouldn't have it by today, but he is hoping to distribute that to the rest of the harbor commissioners. It's basically kind of what we thought should be included in that, so we do have some sort of structure form. And then it's up to the rest of the harbor commission if that's the route we want to take, or if we want to get more open to discussion, but at least this way we do have kind of that structure developed if we want to go by that. And then we also just discussed what would be included in on the website, which is, I was working with Alex yesterday on basically getting all of the reports to her. She's working this week to kind of reformat and combine some of them together to get them posted, but it will be very similar to other reports for other departments on the town websites page. As well as the tariffs, and then eventually post like the 2026 budget on there. Yeah, but hopefully that should be, that at least at basic information should definitely be up by the December 8th meeting, which we can announce to folks. Alex said that she should have it up by next week.
Can we get it on Chamber Blast? I think we need to get the word out. I don't think people look at the town website.
That was another thing that Collins brought up. He said that potentially doing like a text blast.
Oh, on the town,
The community page would probably be good too.
on Facebook. Yeah.
On Facebook.
It's definitely already on, I believe it's already on, because I sent it to Alex, the town's calendar page.
Maybe if we got something up in the post office.
Yeah, if we could have Alex post
Posted. Yeah.
the Just on the 4 posting boards or however many posting boards there are. The town has. The community page is a good one. Is there? I don't know. I guess we have to wait and see what Michael comes up with to get something on the community page. And I just think we need to be as forthcoming as possible and get word out as
Broadly, yes.
as how many ways we can. So
Yeah, that's the point of this
people
whole
know.
thing is so that
Yeah,
if they want, if they're interested, can.
yeah.
Right, if they're interested, right.
You decided where it's going to be.
I was here.
I have on the
But it's,
boardroom that I haven't here. I'm sorry, I just assumed that's where it was gonna be at.
No one has anything else for Katie? I will move that we place the Chief Administrative Officer report on file.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carries. Next up, Harbor Assistance Program project updates. Anything worth
Evening.
mentioning, Cal?
Nothing major at this point. We're submitting for reimbursement here probably today, if not at the latest tomorrow. We've started working with Cooper Engineering on the dredging component as well, so that's going well, and they've I guess just got started on that. Outside of that, there's really probably not going to be any major updates for a couple of months as we get into defining the scope and then getting a rough outline, then putting that out to bid. It's going to be pretty slow for the next few months, and then again we're hoping to have it totally done this spring.
Great. We ready then to move on to consider Madeline Fire Suppression System project quote?
This system is not Coast Guard certified yet because of that one component that you talked about.
No, this is so we'd have a whole host of options, right? So there's a lot of different ways that you could install this. For that price, I can get and am planning on installing a Coast Guard approved system just so that there's significantly less headache. So with that though, there's like realistically 3, maybe 4 major ways to install this fire suppression system, all with varying degrees of cost and trade-off. One of the advantages of what's on the Bayfield is that it's automatic. It's a non-hazardous, not only to electronics and machinery, but also to people. And it's easily and relatively affordable to recharge and put back into service. So that is the primary reasons why we went with that system on the Bayfield. On the Madeline, that is an option. However, we'd have a drawn out back and forth with the Coast Guard as we've had on the Bayfield. If we went that route, there's other routes that are available, such as a non-automatic system. So that would mean that if the boat is sitting idle over the course of the winter and an electrical fire breaks out, that it would take somebody actuating the system in order to suppress the fire. So if it happened in the middle of the night, the fire wouldn't be suppressed ultimately until somebody showed up that knew how to use the system. To then go to an automatic system, the complexity goes up, and a Coast Guard approved automatic system, the complexity goes up and the cost goes up. That's maybe where we would, and again, this isn't a quote, this is a rough estimate. They have said that between 2 of these different systems that we could stay under 35,000. We need to go through and weigh each one out and make sure that it's the best option. That's what we're currently working on. But the automated system would have more cost to it, a little bit more complexity to it. And then you start running into problems where the automated system discharges in the middle of the night due to a fire. Of course, we'd get an alarm that happened. However, the space would need to be like certified safe. So we couldn't go into that space because there's a couple of different ways to put it out using different chemicals or agents, but the potassium is really the only one that's safe. So when the potassium one went off on the Bayfield, we were able to go into that system, start cleaning it, recharging it, and having it ready for service in the morning. The other systems, displace oxygen, so you would have to wait to ventilate. You'd have to get oxygen meters in there. You'd have to do quite a bit of work before you could go and even investigate the space. And then recharging the systems is significantly more complex and with significantly greater cost. Now, again, that being said, it's significantly less cost than a fire destroying the boat, right? So that's really where we're still in these early stages of picking exactly which one, but if the Harbor Commission is preference, and I think again it's ultimately my preference at this point as well, is to make sure that it's something that requires little to no fight with the Coast Guard. Yes, the 35,000, we can get a system in that's an approved system, no hiccups. It's just we have to make compromises in other departments. There's kind of no free lunch outside of the potassium system checked every single box. Again, if it's automatic, the agent that you're using to put out the fire can be in the engine room. If it's not automatic, it has to be outside of the engine room. If it's outside the engine room, most of the agents have to then be heated. And so then you have to run, heat lines or power lines to heat this agent. So again, each one comes with a trade-off. At this stage, however, again, I can get it accomplished realistically for that number or very close to that number. The designer is confident in that. We would be installing it pretty much in any event in-house. So, those costs are relatively controlled, and we can do that over the course of the winter. And so it's just making the decision ultimately on which compromises do we want to make as far as the objective of the fire suppression system. Ultimately, though, the big thing that we're after is, giving the crew a tool to, put out a fire, if the vessel was occupied, so underway. I mean, that's really the objective, and all of these options for that price would satisfy that.
Now, is there a reduction in insurance if you have the automated system or even the manual one?
I've talked to them about that, and it's been brought up, and at this time there isn't a reduction in insurance. At least that was as of probably 8 months ago. I talked to them about that. But again, I'm happy to keep bringing that back up because I would agree there should be, there's significantly less potential for a total loss in the event that you have an automatic system.
Cal, if we went with an automated system, what would the price increase look like?
I don't know that exactly. There's the unknown variable in the automatic system is that for the Coast Guard to sign off on an automatic system without any, back and forth, which most of the projects I have do have significant back and forth. It's very rare that you get through a project without any, discussion between, making changes and not following the reg to the T. The one area that in order to do it without any of that, to totally meet exactly what the Coast Guard wants, what they wrote, 15 years ago, is that the fire dampeners need to be automatic. Right now on our vessels, none of our fire dampeners are automatic, which means that in the event of an engine room fire, we have to go down and close the fire dampeners, right, to the engine room to seal that space. At night, we leave the fire dampeners closed now. We close them every single night, exactly for that reason, because it would help keep the fire from getting big. You're closing off the oxygen. So we changed that about a year ago. We used to leave them open at night in the summer. Now we close them year round. They're always closed. However, the Coast Guard wants those to be automatic. So I can get the fire suppression system in for under $35,000, with the automatic system. It is really, how do we go about installing these automatic fire dampeners? Or if we go to the Coast Guard and say, you know, we would like to ask that we don't need these installed, and here's why. You know, because we have a training regiment that the crew knows how to close these underway, and then when we're not underway, they're closed anyways. Now I've talked to the architects about that, and I've talked to the designers of the fire suppression system, and they feel it's a good argument. You know, everybody would agree that it would make sense, but that is, again, one of the risks that you run when you start, you know, changing ever so slightly from, you know, their set of requirements. Is that, again, everything meets their requirement except for this one piece. So the cost of making automatic fire dampeners would be the cost that would probably exceed $35,000 on this project. And how we go about doing that, you know, I don't have the numbers on that, because we've started only looking at that as saying, okay, well, would we do it on deck? Would we do it down in the engine room? What kind of hinge would we use? Most of it could be built in-house, minimizing the cost as much as possible. But what they want is ultimately the cheapest option would be doing it up on deck and having a flap that folds down. That's the most common. So it's like on a spring-loaded hinge and it folds down. However, on our deck, space is at a premium, as you're all aware. You know, and so making it so that all of the cars are always parked far enough away from the wall that a spring-loaded hatch could always close, again, poses you know, unique challenges, right? So those are some of the aspects that we're looking at. To ballpark it, I mean, I don't think it would be more than an additional 5,000. But again, I haven't dug down that hole yet, because we're still working out, you know, all of these additional components as far as what's the pros and cons of each one. But I can say for 35,000, we can get in these systems. We feel very confident in that.
And does the Bayfield have these automatic dampers?
No, they do not. And that's a part of the argument that we're making with them, is that, you know, again, they're closed at night. It's not important, but again, the big issue on the Bayfield is not the automatic dampeners. They weren't pushing on that component. They weren't fighting back on that. They were pushing back on the fact that there isn't a mechanical override for the dispersion of the agent, right? So there isn't a way that I can mechanically go and make it start, you know, going off. That's the only issue they have with it. And again, that's something that I am very, very confident eventually they're going to agree to it. I have done far larger, more complex projects that have far greater changes, from like the generators on the Madeline. The last time they updated the regulations for the generator on the Madeline was about 25 years ago. In order to put on generators that could automatically start and stop, you have to have electric breakers that are controlled by a computer. When they wrote this regulation 25 years ago, that didn't exist. But I was able to get that, you know, pushed through, right? It just depends on the person at the Coast Guard who's opening up the file and, you know, making a determination that day. And so again, it's sometimes can be a long drawn out process, and sometimes it can go through very quickly. So no, at this time, the Bayfield does not have that, simply because it doesn't, even the LaPointe. So the LaPointe doesn't have it either. However, the LaPointe doesn't have an automatic system. And so it's not a requirement in a manually activated system that you have those automatic dampeners. So that's, again, the LaPointe has a fire suppression system. It's very similar to what we could be putting on the Madeline. However, if the LaPointe, you know, caught fire in the middle of the night, it would physically take somebody coming down and actuating the system to set it off. Additionally, activating the system to set it off would render that space, even if it was a false alarm, would render that space not safe for people for quite some time. So again, each one of these things has a trade-off.
What is the likelihood that the Coast Guard would require boats such as ours that currently don't require fire suppression? When do you think that they will start pushing to have us put in required Coast Guard approved fire suppression systems?
So, I'm getting a little bit into speculation, but again, I am presenting at, national conventions about this, right? And so, I wouldn't say I'm an expert in it, but I do have my kind of finger on the pulse of it. And, from discussing it with the Coast Guard and discussing it with other, fire suppression industry leaders, I would personally put it at, it is a 100% inevitability, 100% that it's going to happen. Now, to answer your question, as far as the timeline, they have already started implementing it on some other boats, on some other class vessels. For subchapter T, in our specific route, it's something that I think it's either going to happen in the next 3 years, that they're gonna push for this, and then sometime in the next 3 years, they're going to say, okay, you have 2 years to get this put on board your vessel, or it's going to happen when there's another fire, right? So the next subchapter T vessel that starts on fire and they don't have a fire suppression system, they'll do an investigation, and that could happen at any point here, because the entire subchapter fleet, old subchapter fleet doesn't have any fire suppression, again, except for like the LaPointe and the Bayfield. And so if those fires happen, they would likely mandate it like tomorrow. And that's really the concern, is we're essentially sitting here waiting, for the fire, or we're waiting for them to, again, push it kind of through their system. But it has already started. It will happen. They are very keen on this. Every PVA, I'm on the fire committee with PVA. I'm working with these leaders, and we all are really in agreement that it's going to happen. It's just, when is it going to happen to our size vessel? That's that's a magic 8-ball question. I would personally put it in that 3-year range would be my guess.
What I'm kind of getting at is that, we already have this one system on the Bayfield that Miffle and you seem to approve and works well, is automatic, seems to be cheaper, and you're able to go into the space afterwards without much problem. And two, it's also nice to have the same systems on the same boats,
Right,
to keep everything even. It's just, going down the line, we say we put this system in, the Coast Guard comes back and says, we don't approve of this system. Now we got to rip it out and put a different one in. Personally, if we're just doing it out of our own, keeping our boat safe, keeping the crew safe, I would prefer to have a system that's already being used and the crew's already familiar with, rather than now we'll have a third system, because LaPointe already has a different one, Bayfield has one, and we're putting, a completely different one that's on the Madeline. But, I guess it's kind of up to Miffle's recommendation as to the direction we should go and the type of system we should put on the Madeline.
And so, this was the same discussion that I had to bring up to the board of, Madeline on Ferryline Inc. And I said, realistically, the system that's on the Bayfield is the best system. I'm a big proponent of it. I've done the research on it. Again, I've done presentations and with it. I've talked to the industry leaders. It is a really, really good system. There are, hopes that in the future, one of two things is going to happen. Either, again, I'm still working with the Coast Guard. There's a very likely chance that I will get them to approve it. And once it's approved, it's good. And then we have a fire suppression system. And then if they do roll it out in the future, we won't have to modify the system because it's already approved. However, there's also a likelihood that we could retrofit a component to it, because it is just this one piece. It's a piece about this big. It goes on the canister, that you could put in one that not only uses the electrical pulse, but they're developing them right now that would use a mechanical pull as well, which would then satisfy the Coast Guard requirement. So there is a way too that, again, I think once the Coast Guard makes an official ruling that, these fire suppression systems are going to be mandatory, more time and effort are going to be put into regulation and designing components for our size vessel. And again, I can't stress this enough, that the piece that is on the system that's on the Bayfield right now, if the boat was a bigger boat, it would be approved. It's an approved system for larger vessels. It works for larger ferries. It works for more complex boats. It is literally just because we are regulated exclusively by the Coast Guard, because we're subchapter T, bigger boats have regulating agencies. And these regulating agencies stay up to date. They stay current. They do their research. They have in-house specialists. They have signed off on this. So, you know, this system would work on the new First Nations ferry that was just put out. That's a Lloyd's boat. This would have been able to go into that boat, the same system without any changes. So again, this is really, you know, the issue that we're having with the Coast Guard is that we're saying this fire suppression system meets a higher standard than the Coast Guard's. But again, these are some of the challenges in dealing with it. So yes, I would prefer that. That is ultimately what you know, the previous board agreed to, was that it did make sense to go with the better product. But yes, we are running a slight risk that, you know, they come back and they say, okay, it's mandatory in 3 years from now, and then they say, okay, you've got 2 years to comply, and you know, we're still working against you know, getting all these little pieces in there. Again, I would feel personally very confident that that wouldn't be the issue, that we would be able to have this solved by then.
So this 35,000, is that equipment only, or does that factor in like crew labor for the installation?
So this is equipment only, because the crew labor is already factored into our labor estimates. So that's already a part of the budgeted cost. So it wouldn't be any additional labor over what has already been put into the budget.
Is this item already in the 25 budget or forecast for 26?
25.
It was in the 25. Yep.
So
And it was
can I continue? Okay. So if you're going to order this in December,
Mhm.
when are you going to pay it?
In December. I mean, we'd pay it. You know, again, I've been working with them. We've gone through the specs of the boat. We've confirmed that it is we pay the bill in December.
Are we making a decision now to purchase a system, or are we just talking about it for the next meeting?
Do we have an actual quote?
No.
Not that.
We have an estimate.
I personally would like to see some information on like the system that's on the Bayfield, because I know nothing about it. It'd be nice to read up on it a little bit, along with whatever kind of other system that you're talking about you're talking about for the Madeline that is Coast Guard certified. And if there's any sort of blueprint or schematic or whatnot that that you're looking at for the Madeline, it'd just be nice to see, you know, some paper.
Definitely. And that's kind of where I'm at, though, is that I'm at a stage where I've gotten about as far as I can on goodwill. You know, so to ask them to keep doing more is going to require them, you know, to charge us, right? So I'm really at the stage where I can't, and that's why I brought it to you. I've gotten to the point where it's feasible, it's doable, but you know, at this point, I'm going to have to start spending money to get you some of those, you know, those answers.
Can you request a formal quote so we have an exact dollar amount to approve?
Potentially, but again, the formal quote would really come with deciding on a specific avenue, but I could try and get as many as possible. Sure.
Well, it'd be nice to have, could we get a quote on the system that is similar to the one that's on the Bayfield, and then the one that is today Coast Guard certified, that you would recommend to go on the Madeline?
Sure. I think I can do that. Again, it's not going to have drawings or schematics. It's just going to have rough.
I mean, we don't need, I guess we don't really need schematics, but it would be nice to just read up a little bit on the type of system that you're talking about, just mostly for, you know, just knowing about it, you know, because all we know about it is what you tell us. Whereas if we got, you know, even just a pamphlet of what the type of system this is, just to read up on it.
Yep.
And I'm in favor of it, and I trust your judgment on which system would be best for the boat, but I think we just need a little bit more information.
And I agree with Evan, if you have a different system on each boat.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a.
All the things that you've said about the Bayfield system, to me, that seems like the system we would want to go with. The only hesitation is it's not Coast Guard certified today. If we could satisfy the Coast Guard with that manual operation and it's not a $10,000 installation, then, and it satisfies the Coast Guard, then I would say go with, the system that's on the Bayfield. But it's also nice to be able to read what we're purchasing.
Yeah, and then with that too, so just to be very clear, the agent is Coast Guard approved. The system is Coast Guard approved. It is only that one component. So none of the chemicals or suppression methods are not Coast Guard approved. And then one of the biggest advantages of going with that system is that the shelf life of, so they're like pods. If you go down in the Bayfield engine room, it looks like a coffee can, and they're coffee cans that are mounted above high hazard, like above the engine, above a generator, above hydraulics. Those have a shelf life of about 25 years. So that is something that if we have multiple boats that share the same system, you are able to swap out those. You can keep one on the shelf. You can keep a set of them on the shelf. So if one were to ever go off, you have 25 years. You could swap it out and you could have the boat back in a service again in up to 12 to 20 hours depending on the cleanup time. So that again, it's another pro towards similar systems.
The system that's on the Bayfield, the quote that they give us, can they give us a quote with that mechanical?
The mechanical piece doesn't, it's still in development. So I'm talking to like the manufacturers. It's not something that is out right now, because if it was out right now, I could install that and this would be a no-brainer because it would be instantly ready to go. So it's in development. They just, again, their words. I have talked to Kidde, who I'm sure you guys are familiar with, is a major fire, systems integrator. They have specifically told me at the highest level that because the only class of vessel that needs that component, a 300-foot boat that carries 3,000 passengers could operate our system. We're the only one that would need that manual override. They don't have enough industry push to develop it because nobody else would need it. And so they've told me that, like, have they designed it? Yes, on a blueprint, on a piece of paper, they have it. They know what it looks like. They know they can do it. However, there isn't a high demand for it. So they're not making it until the Coast Guard mandates that, the fire suppression system has to get put on all of these grandfathered in subchapter T boats. So realistically, the goal would be, again, continuing to push what we have already pushed with the Coast Guard, is that this system is approved for larger vessels with more people, more complex systems, and that realistically they should allow it to be utilized on board our ferries. More the mechanical piece, though, to put a cost on it, that would be a incredibly small overall cost. We're probably talking in the tune of maybe $1,000 to retrofit a boat from the electric igniters to an electrical mechanical hybrid. It wouldn't be a $10,000 cost down the line to swap out that component. There'd be a cable pull run because I've seen what they've developed. Kidde showed me their blueprint for it, essentially.
Do you have an inline switch that would automate it, sending to make that electrical signal through?
Yes. So that's already on the Bayfield. That's the argument, is that it is like triple redundant and it's safer and better than a mechanical pull. But the Coast Guard is, again, they're really based on, technology from 30 to 60 years ago. They feel comfortable, with a mechanical pull because it works. You can pull it and you can see the cable move. We've told them that, again, the system self-pulls itself. So if you were to cut the wire, you would get an alarm saying the system doesn't work. If one of the batteries fail, it's got multiple battery sources. If one of the batteries fail, you'll get an alarm saying one of the batteries is dead, but it will also still be able to flip the switch and activate it because you have multiple battery sources. So, with a mechanical pull, you really only know that it works once a year or twice a year, depending on how often you inspect it. But I can tell you we have mechanical pulls for our fuel shutoffs on board the vessels. On the decks, you have a mechanical pull tab. and they have seized up in between inspections. So, that again is where I'm coming from, is that mechanical poles will seize. You go to the day to use it. Maybe you inspected it 6 months ago and it worked fine. Now it's seized. Now it doesn't work. On the Bayfield, you do have override switches. So you have switches that don't require the automatic system to work, that you flip the switch, you hit the button, and it activates. Ultimately, the fact that it went off accidentally is what happened.
Well, for the next meeting, I think, could we get formal quotes that we would approve? And then two, get some, and just basic information on the system?
Yeah, it seems the time is starting to run out.
And that should give you more than enough time to order the system in December, I would think.
I think
If you have a
so.
formal quote.
I mean, for me, it's, I could order it in January, but I'm just trying to keep it on, the 2025
That's not.
system.
Well, I'll throw out a motion and see if it gets any traction. I would say request a purchase order for everything that you need to make this happen. If it's under the $35,000 estimate, then I would approve the expenditure.
And are we going on the system that's on the Bayfield?
Matching system to the Bayfield.
Match.
Second.
Okay. I'll get started on that.
Yeah,
Is there any further discussion? We have a motion and a
We
second.
discussed a lot.
yeah, we do.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
I,
Opposed? Motion carries.
So just to confirm, we're recommending Miffle LLC go with the system that's on the Bayfield.
identical,
Yes.
Got it.
if,
Get a quote.
If it's under the $35,000 estimate.
right.
If over, I'll bring it back to you guys and send it to Harbor Commission.
Do keep educating us with this
Yeah.
material that Evan requested.
I'll send Katie. I mean, essentially, there's three different primary StatX, which is what's on the Bayfield, FM200, which is on the LaPointe, and then the carbon dioxide, which is not on any of the boats and one of the most dangerous ones, just because it's really odorless, tasteless. Again, you walk into a system flooded with carbon dioxide, that's where people just hit the ground, and you don't know what happened.
Thanks, Kyle.
Yep.
Let's move on to agenda item 8, authorize PVA travel for Richard Kula.
The form that I filled out is a very basic overview of the expenditures. They're all estimates based on like looking at flights. It's gonna kind of depend on where Rich is wanting to fly out of. I was gonna request with Nicole that they keep us updated on their travel planning, because it definitely was easier for me to travel with them. Going to this last PVA meeting.
And this one there was a reduced registration fee if it was done before December 31st. Is this?
That is what Robin said. I cannot find that on the website without fully registering yet. I can definitely find that out. I was waiting for the 100% approval.
Do you recall offhand what the registration fee is?
It,
$390.
It's right here.
395 is what it's cost the past.
Oh, right there.
I think I
Okay.
was 390 as a government.
All right, I'll move that we approve Richard Kula's travel.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
If we can make it work that they can carpool and fly together with Miffle LLC, that would be fabulous. What's the closest airport to Covington, Kentucky?
It's probably
There
not,
is- there is- there
could
is
be in
an airport
Ohio.
there. And then this
Oh, there is.
flight and then the mileage reimbursement estimate is based off of going out of Duluth. That's another thing I really want to talk with Rich and Nicole about, like if they are planning on flying out of Minneapolis, that should just think a little bit, but
Well, could it take a town vehicle if they fly out of Duluth or fly out of Minneapolis? Could he drive a town vehicle to?
I don't think do we have one anymore?
I'm not sure
I have no
about
idea.
town. I drove my own personal car, but Nicole did offer a ride. They do
Oh,
drive.
sorry, Cal, go ahead.
a vehicle.
Yeah, and I just wanted to say, I mean, that's like, when we make these travel arrangements, we essentially go for, what's cheapest and most reasonable. We try to factor in, the additional several hours drive time down to Minneapolis. But just like the last PVA, when Minneapolis becomes significantly cheaper, and much like going to Workboat Show, Minneapolis airport can end up being hundreds of dollars cheaper per ticket. We take the travel van, the black travel van down there, and that saves quite a bit of money. And Rich would be able to ride with us and carpool potentially, which can save an immense amount.
This is, he went out of the loop and did not.
Vote on this.
Yes.
Yeah,
I think that's all.
Yeah.
I think it's important to note that this is a big step. Now, we're estimating costs before we book the travel, so that's great.
I think I called the vote, didn't I?
Voted,
Do we?
but
So,
all approved.
budget updates, 2026 budget updates?
The only thing that we really have as an update, our next budget meeting will be on Monday, with Cal. We have not met, well, as a full group, but with both Robin and Cal since our last budget meeting, just because Robin's been out of town. But we need to move forward with that. The Harbor Commission Budget Committee did meet, this week just to discuss, I believe there was like 3 different expense line items, that we would like to see a reduction in. We'll be discussing those with Cal on Monday. And hopefully we've gotten it to where basically a slight increase in tariff, which hopefully on Monday we can decide specifically on that percentage. As well as utilizing some of the reimbursed funds for the HAP project. Will close that gap that we still have. And then I would recommend, once we decide on the percentage increase for the tariff, that the tariff committee begins to meet to figure out how to.
Wait, some more spreadsheets.
Hopefully it's a lot less work than last year, but I would recommend that the tariff committee go ahead and starts meeting before the end of the year to try to figure out that percentage.
Thank you, Katie.
That was number 9. Oh, number 10.
Move on to approval of bills. Might need a little bit of explanation.
Have to. So what that includes is all of our December 1st debt service payments, which is our revenue bond loan payment, our general obligations bond loan payment, and the non-interest payment. As well as there is a reimbursement to Miffle for October expenses. And there is the November 14th payroll reimbursement to Miffle in there as well.
Okay, I see it now too, actually. I will move that we approve the payment of the bills in the amount of $1,237,882.50.
Ouch.
Second it.
Isn't, there was disagreement about the, accounting bill?
Oh, so just as a note from, and this is something that I'll discuss with Robin when she returns, but it was brought up by enough Harbor Commission members and discussed at the budget committee, that the accounting bill was pulled from that. So the amount that he just
Okay.
approved, the
Does not
accounting bill
include
is
it.
not included in that. And then there was one bill from Evan and Evan Landscaping that was pulled too, that Evan said.
I got behind on my book. And then a late fee email was sent out and that was paid. And
I confirmed with him and Kim, and that one was pulled.
been concentrating on dirt moving and not my books.
So we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
I
Aye.
I,
Opposed? Motion carries.
Oh, Cal, can you remind the crew that use credit cards for fueling to let the attendant know to take the tax off on fuel? Oh,
You're muted.
you're muted.
I will do that.
Thank you.
Meeting dates, future agenda items.
I think we just discussed circling back to the quote, if it is over 35,000.
Otherwise, we have our December 8th kind of state of the Harbor Commission meeting.
Mhm.
We can meet next Thursday.
I'm sure.
Fine. I will make that an evening meeting.
And I do just have 2026 budget updates on the.
And eventually we'll have to approve the budget.
I'll bring.
Yeah, what about
pie.
the tariff? Should we have discussion of the 2026 tariff? Or should the tariff committee?
Oh, we're on future agenda items.
I mean, I think
It should be.
we try to submit that as early in January as possible to the
March.
railroad. Or it's not due till March.
But we can send it in any time, but
Yeah.
historically, we've been doing like March,
We-
April.
Yeah.
The sooner the better though, because it
There's
starts to
years
inhibit
in
printing
March.
and schedules and all that stuff too.
Yeah.
It's all gonna be contingent when the budget committee finds out what our actual numbers are gonna be, and then you can figure out.
Do we want to start looking at schedule for next year also?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The boats get the running schedule? Yes.
Yeah, we're a little late on approving that and getting brochures printed.
Well, they don't get, no, they
They
don't,
don't print it?
they don't print them until February.
Yeah, but we were really late. I don't think we approved them till January, February last year.
Yeah, I think it was like April before they were even at the printer.
Well, I like that 5:30 boat in the shoulder seasons.
People start hounding Miffle, so it's important that we.
That they know, yeah.
And then do we want to try to meet before the 8th?
The 1st of December is a Monday. We tried to do first meeting of the month.
I'll be absent if it's on the 1st.
When are you back?
Are you able to zoom it in, Susan, or are you gonna be?
No, I'll be knocked out.
And then the next Monday is the 8th.
Would there'd be no meeting on Tuesday the 2nd, right, Glenn? Your board meeting, town board?
There is no town board meeting on
Would you be
Tuesday.
available on the 2nd?
Might not be cogent, but I'd be available.
What about that Thursday morning? What's the date of that? The,
Thursday, the 4th.
Fourth. I would.
I
say-
don't think I can make Thursday the 4th. I got a doctor's appointment.
Should we shoot for Tuesday the 2nd?
If it is.
For a morning or evening.
Second, I would request a morning meeting just because I have a doctor's appointment.
It's Tuesday, the 2nd, work in the morning for everybody?
not ideal, but it could.
Actually,
That way we can make if we need to, a formal approval of the fire suppression.
And we can talk about what we're presenting on the 8th.
Yeah.
Which might be a good thing.
A real good idea.
So 9 o'clock on the 2nd.
Yeah,
That sounds the only thing that works.
we'll satisfy our evening meeting with Monday, the 8th.
Right.
Do you,
You think we will we meet again in December? Likely. Yeah.
Next up, public comment B. I'll wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving.
Oh, yes.
Thank you.
Indeed,
And thank you to the crew for working Thanksgiving.
yes. Who's bringing the pie?
If there's no more public comment, we'll move on to agenda item 14, review of the Mifflin management contract.
we need to? go into closed session?
If we wanted to talk about
Yeah.
the confidential.
Okay.
Update.
I'll make a motion that we move into closed session under state statute 19.851E, deliberating and negotiating the purchase of public properties, investigating public funds, or conducting other specific public business whenever,
I'll second.
yep.
And I'll call the vote, roll call vote. Mary Russ,
I,
Susan Whitmore,
Yes.
Jason
Yeah.
Wiltz, Evan Erickson,
Yes.
Glenn Carlson.
Yes.
I'm a yes. Entering closed session, 9:56.